Hi, Kathy. I don't know how this looks on your end, but on my end, the light, I don't know, it looks very washed out and faded. So I don't know why that is, but anyway, sorry for the poor picture quality. But okay, so I'm going to talk to you now about Morte D'Arthur. Pardon my horrible French accent. So this was, I think the best word to use is probably translated by Sir Thomas Malory. And so it was originally written in French, and Malory translated the French into English. However, it's possible and even likely that, he added little, I guess you could say, nuances or little tweaks here and there that were his own, because if you look him up, you will see that he is referred to as the author and translator. So it's kind of difficult, at least for me. I think it's difficult for most people. I'm sure there are scholars who devote their lives to studying this, but I don't think anyone really knows, because again, he is referred to as an author and translator of these Arthurian legends, and to my knowledge, he is the most famous for doing this, and he is the most associated with the Arthurian legends. So Malory was also a very interesting guy. Again, if you look him up or try to find out information on his life, you may find comments like, "Oh, his life was mysterious," or it's not really known what exactly he did, which is kind of true. But I think what's more accurate is that it has been figured out who he was, and that he was a criminal. So when he translated these the Arthurian legends, he actually did that in jail. And if Thomas Malory is the Malory that they think it is, he was not just in jail for I don't know, like traffic tickets. I believe he was accused of rape, extortion, theft, or burglary, some serious things. And it's also said that he was a spy for the Queen. And interestingly, he died in a duel. And let's see, I believe that his death was very shady. It definitely seemed like it had something to do with his activities as a spy. So Malory, I think, is a very interesting guy. Something else is interesting is that he was fascinated with these Arthurian legends and with chivalry. I'm not quite sure why, but he was really fascinated with that. So, and then what we're looking at tonight is towards the end of the Arthurian legends. It begins with the conspiracy against Lancelot and Guinevere. And it starts with, let's see, so all of there are these two angry knights, Sir Mordred and Agravain, and they sound kind of like haters. They don't have any good reason to dislike Lancelot. And well, actually they do. Lancelot is having an affair with Guinevere. Guinevere is married to Arthur. However, everybody knows everyone knows, it's out in the open, and no one really cares. But Agravain and Mordred want to make trouble. So it's not that they care about Arthur and they feel like, oh, it's, disrespectful to him, or that they're worried that he's going to get hurt. That is not the case at all. They just want to cause trouble because they do not like Guinevere, and they don't like Lancelot. So as this opens, we have them, and they are trying to convince the other knights that they should tell Arthur about this. And none of the other knights agree with them that pushing the issue is a good idea. And the main reason most of the knights will say that Lancelot saved them at some time from death, or Lancelot did this for them, or Lancelot is the greatest knight. So no one wants to be involved, but Mordred and Agravain go to King Arthur, and they confront him, and they do so very publicly. So what they're doing is forcing Arthur to act, even though, as I said, he knows this and he has known it, but they're confronting him in such a way that he can't just let it go anymore. So Arthur basically tells them to make sure you catch him in the act, or them in the act, and later that night they hide outside of Guinevere's, and sure enough, Lancelot goes there, and Lancelot and Guinevere are caught. So let's see, Guinevere is supposed to be tied to a stake and burned, but she's rescued, and then war breaks out between Lancelot and Arthur. But what is interesting, and then this war, we're given numbers, it's a long and costly war in terms of the lives that are lost, and then it also causes the collapse of the Round Table. But something that is interesting is that Arthur is not mad at Lancelot. You would think he would be furious with Lancelot because Lancelot had been having an affair with Guinevere, his queen. You would also think that Arthur would be mad at Lancelot because, what he did led to a war that has led to the collapse of the Round Table, which really is their world. But interestingly, if you look at, let's see, where is it? Hold on a second, I just find. Where is it? Oh, okay. So for me, I think it's this. You have the same pages because you're reading the PDF. So it's on page 489. So here, Lancelot says that he is much sorrier to lose his knights and the friendship he had with them than he is to lose his queen. Where is it? So he says, and much more I am sorrier for my good knight's loss than for the loss of my fair queen. For queens I might have enough, but such a fellowship of good knights shall never be brought together in no company. So that's really interesting because clearly Arthur does not put much value on romance or on Guinevere, but Lancelot is risking everything to be with Guinevere. So it's not like we can look at this and say, well, romance wasn't valued or love wasn't important. It wasn't important to Arthur, but clearly it was very important to Lancelot, and Lancelot was probably the best knight. So it says something that he was willing to, give up his reputation and to his place within the Round Table, and even the collapse of, and serve as a catalyst for the collapse of the Round Table, just for Guinevere. So let's see. Also interesting, is the way that all of these people. So one thing about this story, or these chapters, that makes me, I don't want to say not like it, but for lack of a better word, one reason I'm not crazy about it is because it's hard for me to distill a message from it. Yeah, it's hard, and I've had this conversation with students every time we read this in class. I don't know. Well, the only message I can see, and I'll explain it to you shortly, traces back to Mallory. But as far as relating to the characters and some sort of lesson that we're supposed to take away, it's hard for me to see that. So Arthur is killed fighting, and before he dies, he's taken off on a barge to, I can't remember the name of the place, but it's Avalon. He's taken off on a barge to Avalon, and one of his knights sees him leaving, and he kind of calls out to him like, what should we do? Help. And I'm paraphrasing, but so Arthur says, where is it? Sorry, I'm just trying to find it. In essence, Arthur says that says not to look to him for answers, that he doesn't really know anything. Of course, I cannot find the quote right now, but I think that is interesting because it shows humility in Arthur. And then we see a similar humility in Lancelot. Lancelot actually has a dream that he has a dream that he goes to find. Well, no, okay, sorry. So he has a dream, okay, and then he wakes up from the dream and he goes to Amesbury, which is where Guinevere is in a nunnery. And it turns out that she has died 30 minutes before he gets there. And the fact that it took him 2 days to travel there is crazy because she died, he goes all that way. It's a great distance. And then a half hour before he gets there, she dies. And then we learn that before she died, she was praying. She had one prayer, and that was that God would never give her the power to see Sir Lancelot with her worldly eyes. So in other words, she prayed not to ever see Sir Lancelot on earth when she was alive. And so her prayer came true. Lancelot, meanwhile, he seems to hold up pretty well. And there is a hermit who says to him at Amesbury, after he's been to the nunnery, ye be to blame, for ye displease God with such a manner of sorrow making. So the hermit basically says, God is displeased with you because of what you've done. And Lancelot, this is on page 497, says, truly, I trust I do not displease God, for he knoweth mine intent, for my sorrow is not, nor is it for any rejoicing of sin, but my sorrow may never have end. For when I remember of her beauty and her noblesse, that was both with her king and with her, so when I see his course and her course lie together, truly mine heart would not serve to sustain my careful body. And when I remember me, how by my default and mine orgul, that means fault, and my pride, that they both were laid full low, that were peerless that ever was living in Christian people, wit you well, said Lancelot. Wit you well, says Sir Lancelot. This remembered of their kindness, and mine unkindness sank so to mine heart that I might not sustain myself. So we are then told that after this point, Lancelot pretty much stops eating, and he becomes a hermit and a saint. And when he dies, he gets carried up to heaven by a fleet of angels, which is very interesting because he's been having this affair with Guinevere the whole time, and that is one of the 10 commandments. I don't know exactly how it's phrased, but that you're not adulterate. Well, and he does that. Now, interestingly, also at Lancelot's funeral, his brother, Sir Bors, Sir Ector or Sir Bors, his brother, Sir Ector, gives a speech about Lancelot, and I will read some of it to you. It says, Lancelot, thou were head of all Christian knights, and were never matched of earthly knight's hand, and thou were the courteousest knight that ever bore a shield, and thou were the truest friend to thy lover that ever bestrode horse, and thou were the truest lover of a sinful man that ever loved woman, and thou were the kindest man that ever struck with sword, and thou were the goodliest person that ever came among press of knights, and thou was the meekest man and the gentlest that ever ate in hall among ladies, and thou were the stern. So Anyway, he praises Lancelot endlessly, which is interesting because clearly Mallory has chosen Lancelot to be the hero of this story. I can't imagine that that was how it was originally written, because Lancelot is having an affair with Guinevere. However, even though again he seems like he would be faulted for creating this whole big mess, King Arthur does not blame him. He actually faults Mordred and Agravain. And so my question, well, the message that I don't know if it's a message, but I see it going back to Mallory, especially because now I don't think you can turn to the very last page because it's cut off in the PDF, but in the very last page there is a note from Mallory to the reader, and he says, "I pray you all gentlemen and gentlewomen that readeth this book of Arthur and his knights from beginning to end, pray for me while I am alive, that God send me good deliverance. And when I am dead, I pray you all pray for my soul." And let's see, that is dated 1469. So I think that, this is just my thought, I think that Mallory identifies with Lancelot because Lancelot maybe is the villain. He's done wrong, and perhaps Mallory identifies with that, and that's why he favors Lancelot and elevates him. I don't know, but if you have a different take on this, I would love to hear it, because as I said, it's always been a struggle for me to extract a message from it. Oh, there goes my phone. But anyway, I hope this was helpful to you, and yeah, I hope this was helpful to you. Okay, bye.